President Obama authorized the Treasury Department to impose sanctions against a number of Russian individuals and entities. The financial measures are part of the administration's latest efforts to push back on Russia's control over the region. To break down those remarks, I want to bring in RT's Anastasia Churkina in our New York studio. Anastasia, can you break down the sanctions the U.S. is really planning to put in place here?
Well, Amira, what we're talking about here is really, a continuing flexing of muscles by the United States as it continues to accuse Russia of everything that's going on in Ukraine. And what we've seen come out of the State Department today is a visa ban towards certain individuals and officials, both Ukrainian and Russian, people who the United States deems responsible for the crisis on the ground. Also, the U.S. president signed an executive order authorizing sanctions against individuals and entities that the U.S. believes are getting in the way of a democratic process in Ukraine. Now, this, of course, follows a set of other steps taken by the United States, such as the suspension of bilateral talks on trade and investment in Russia, some other bilateral conversations on a sort of case-by-case basis, as well as suspending the preparations for the G8 summit that was supposed to take place in Russia this summer. Now, importantly, what's being said is that this is quite controversial, these sanctions, because eventually the U.S. will be also realizing, despite all the hype surrounding this crisis, that it does need to be able to cooperate with Russia on many issues involving, Afghanistan, Iran, Syria. It's a very long list of important international issues that the U.S. and Russia do need to cooperate on, and this is something that's just kind of getting in the way of that. So there's a lot of questions as to whether this is a kind of step that is going to be influencing this entire situation in a positive way in the long run.
And Obama also spoke about the referendum that's set to take place in just 10 days in Crimea. What did he have to say about that?
Right. Well, with the referendum, I mean, it's curious because we've been hearing repeatedly from the U.S. government that it supports the Ukrainian people deciding their own future. But when it comes to the situation in Crimea, particularly, the U.S. president is against this possible referendum that the people do want to conduct to decide their future. This is what he had to say on that.
I am confident that we are moving forward together, united in our determination to oppose actions that violate international law and to support the government and people of Ukraine. And that includes standing up for the principle of state sovereignty. The proposed referendum on the future of Crimea would violate the Ukrainian Constitution and violate international law.
Well, so basically, these are the latest comments, sanctions. The U.S. says that the situation is fluid and it is going to continue observing events on the ground. But we have to keep in mind, of course, that there's been an extreme polar opinions on what it is exactly that's unraveling in Crimea, whereas we have the U.S. Blaming Russia for militarily intervening, whereas Russia has been saying that it is only planning to intervene militarily as a very last resort, that the troops that are present on the ground are not kind of a latest intervention. They are allowed to be there and have been allowed to be on Ukrainian and Crimean territory for many years, according to legal agreements that exist between Russia and the U.S., Russia and Ukraine, excuse me.
And how is Russia responding to the sanctions? Do you think it's likely Russia will allow international monitors into the region? I know that's something that President Obama called for today.
Right. This is in question. To answer the question of the monitors, an important point Russia has been making is that it's up to the Ukrainian people and the people of Crimea to figure out and decide whether they want monitors on the ground. And this is certainly that because the country is so split in terms of what it wants happening in the future, that is something that's hard to decide in Ukraine. So Russia is really just kind of stepping back, and despite people, again, trying to accuse it of getting in the way of monitors getting there, this is something that Ukraine needs to allow or not allow to happen, depending on what the people feel about this. But in terms of Russia's reactions to sanctions, we have been hearing from Russia's foreign minister in particular saying that the kind of hype and hysteria that has been created surrounding this crisis is making cooperation very difficult. Take a listen to what he said.
Media coverage is filled with unilateral, half-hysterical evaluations. I underlined it once again to John Kerry, who seems to understand everything, that it's far from promoting sustainable cooperation. It's not possible to work in an atmosphere of ultimatums and threats.
And, basically, despite, like we heard the Russian foreign minister say that everybody seems to understand everything, yet in reality, this kind of muscle flexing that we've been seeing from the West has been quite extreme. And with an already extremely complicated situation on the ground, these latest sanctions against Russia, many are saying are really just going to make this situation even more complicated than it already is.
And Anastasia, what do you think the U.S. is hoping to accomplish with the plans the president just put forward?
Meaning the sanctions?
Yes, the sanctions.
Well, the idea, I think, Amira, is that, Russia has been defending its geopolitical interests when it comes to the situation in Ukraine. And we know, of course, that there is no crisis, apparently, in the world that the U.S. cannot be part of for whatever reason. So this is a way for the United States to try to show Russia that it is going to try to get in the way of what it feels is right in this particular crisis. Despite these bans and sanctions on particular individuals and entities, again, both Russian and Ukrainian, we don't know specifically who these people are, and we don't know specifically how much this is actually going to, scare Russia, which is really the final goal of these sanctions. But again, in the long run, whether or not this is a wise thing to do, we'll have to wait and see as events continue developing.
It'll be very interesting to see how all of this plays out in the coming days and weeks. RT correspondent Anastasia Churkina, thank you.